All right, so good evening. We want to welcome you to the 2017 version of the Benton football banquet. And very, very thankful for all of you for coming out tonight to be a part of the process and recognize your athletes and support your athletes, and we really, really appreciate that. I'm going to reach down here and grab a sheet of paper that's on the floor real quick. So I don't know if you had a chance to watch much of the highlight video from the season. We are going to make that available on YouTube, and it will also be available on DVD if anybody's interested in that. Some of you asked about the highlight video, so we will make that available to you if you want it. We also are videoing tonight, and so if anybody's interested, we have a couple of players that weren't able to be here tonight, and so if anybody's interested in a DVD copy of tonight, it'll be available as well. I want to start off tonight just with some thank yous, and obviously, most of you have been around high school athletics long enough to know that for any high school team and any high school athletic program, there's a whole lot that goes into it, obviously from players and coaches, but there's a lot of people that have a lot to do with what goes on in a high school athletic program. And so first and foremost, I want to thank my wife, and she's in here somewhere. I don't even know where she's at, but she allows me to live out my passion of being a football coach, the enormous amount of time that it takes and all those types of things. So very thankful for her and all that she does and all that she allows me to do. Also want to thank Benton High School School Board, the administration, Dr. Maddox, Wade Thomas, the principal, Ryan Miller, our athletic director. Those guys have been extremely supportive of our football program over the years that I've been involved with it. And very thankful for an administration that understands the importance of it, but also understands what place it holds in the high school culture. And so appreciative of those guys as well. Also appreciative of Whittington Church. This is my full-time job. For those of you that don't know, I'm a pastor here at this church, and they allow me the flexibility of schedule, the freedom to be able to spend an enormous amount of time with your kids year-round, not just during football season. And so I'm very thankful that I have an opportunity to do that, and the church allows me the opportunity to do that as well. And also... And it wasn't just Whittington Church, but lots of local churches all throughout our area. For those of you that don't know, every Thursday night throughout our season, a different church hosted a team meal for us and provided the meal, served the meal to our players every single week. And so very thankful for those local churches, the community being involved in our football program in that way. Very appreciative of that. The Football Parents Club this year has just been absolutely outstanding. And I would leave people's names out if I started to try to mention everybody that was involved. But Cindy Page was the president of the Football Parents Club this year. And from involvement last summer, just supporting us in all kinds of ways, to providing meals for us when we go on the road, to providing meals for us when we win, either the morning after or the Monday night after. They would always provide a meal for our varsity team. Just an enormous amount of involvement in our football program this year, and we are extremely appreciative of that. Even to the point of tonight, the meal that was served to our players and our coaching staff tonight was provided by the Football Parents Club and served by the ladies of the Football Parents Club. So we're very, very appreciative of that. And then through their fundraising efforts and some of the things that they do, they're also able to help us out with equipment purchases and all kinds of things. So again, I will leave names out if I start to try to mention everybody that was involved with that process all year long. But like I said, it's just they've been extremely supportive, and I'm very, very appreciative of them. I'm thankful for our coaches, obviously. I don't think people realize how much time is invested in high school athletics from a coach's perspective unless you do it. I know this is my 8th season as a football coach at Benton High School, and been around football all my life, played football, been around coaching and athletics all my life, but until I actually got involved in a high school athletic program and realized how much time is invested, it gives you a whole new appreciation for people who put in the time to invest in kids' lives through high school athletics. And so extremely appreciative of our coaches. We had 9 coaches on our staff this year. Every one of them did a fantastic job, and also very appreciative of their families, their wives. because, again, it's a huge time commitment, especially during the season. And that's a sacrifice that those wives and those families have to make. Maybe not always super willingly, I don't know, but they did. They allowed those men to be a part of, again, your kids' lives, and so very, very appreciative of that and of those families and those wives as well. With any high school athletic program, there's a number of people that are involved in making it fly besides just those that are visible. And anytime that we have a Friday night football game, it takes an army of people to pull that thing off. I'm looking at Wade Thomas over here, Mr. Thomas, and somebody has to supervise the game and there'd be an administrator there. But the number of people just on the field that have to make the thing work. And so I'm going to mention some names here. We have a press box crew of guys that donate their time every single Friday night to be there and make the games work. Ron Head, who was our PA announcer this year, did a fantastic job. Chris Head, who kind of does a little bit of everything and does it well, makes things happen. I don't even know what all he does, honestly. He just does a little bit of everything, and he's just kind of there to make sure things happen the way that they're supposed to. Mark Sterneman and Roger Treese, who operate the scoreboard and take care of the clocks and those types of things. And, again, those are things, if we're not careful, we take for granted that somebody's just going to be there and do it. And if somebody's not there to do it, everybody knows it. And so appreciate those men. Then our sideline chain gang crew, which was several guys this year. But Sid Page kind of organized the chain gang for us, again, this year as he has the past several years, and he does a good job with that. Steve Pointer, Tim Richardson, Pat Sanders, Matt Harmon, Jesse Gordon, David Hobbs, Dale Bayless, Denzel McClintock, Rex Roberts. Those are all guys that, again, sacrificed their time, volunteered their time to operate those chains and make sure that we had all the personnel in place that we needed to get all that done. So very appreciative of those guys. And then the environment for a Friday night football game is just amazing. And I know I'm completely biased. I'm a football guy. I love football. I love everything about high school football. But I'm not sure that I've ever really experienced an environment like a high school Friday night football game. And there's, again, a lot of people that are a part of that process. And so from our cheerleaders and our Wrangler girls, the band, the pep club, our student section that was down in the McLeansboro Street end zone all year long and did some really cool things. Again, a lot of times I didn't know what all they were doing until after the game was over and somebody showed me a video or somebody showed me a picture. If you were there at the Massat County game, they had the powder thing where the powder went up in the air. You guys know what I'm talking about? It's all over Facebook if you want to take a look at it. Things like that to just add to the environment of a Friday night football game. Very, very appreciative of them. The student body, lots of student body support all year long. And again, all of that just goes into making the environment what it is for a high school Friday night football game. Very thankful for you all, the families of the players, getting them where they're supposed to be and making sure that they are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, being supportive of them as they invest their time and do all the things that it requires to be a high school football player. Very appreciative of that. Our coaching staff, as I mentioned, it is a year-long commitment. It's not just 3 months during football season. For these guys, for the coaches, it started last December, and we started meeting and planning and going to coaches' clinics all winter long, weight rooms, and we rotated in and out of the weight room all winter long and all spring long. So, again, I'm very, very appreciative of these men that have chosen to invest in the lives of your kids. So couldn't have done it without them, that's for sure. And then, of course, last but definitely not least, players. With the amount of pressure and stress that's on high school students today and in today's day and age, to be a high school athlete requires another level of commitment in any sport. And not every high school student is willing or capable of making that commitment. I tell these guys all the time, the reason that there were 66 of them this year in our football program is because a lot of kids can't make that commitment. And so I'm very appreciative that they were willing to put in the work. It takes an enormous amount of time and effort outside of football season to prepare ourselves to be ready to play, and very, very appreciative of that. Our seniors this year, and we'll spend more time in a little bit talking about our seniors. They're a special group to me. I've been around this group for a long time, since they were 5 and 6 years old, and had an opportunity to coach a lot of them in a lot of different sports through the years, and they hold a special place for me. And so I'm appreciative of them. I'm appreciative of the fact that they are leaders, the fact that they are tough competitors. And it makes a coach's job a whole lot easier when you have a group of kids that handle it that way. And so I'm appreciative of that. Again, a whole lot of people to thank, and again, I don't want to leave anybody out, but I definitely wanted to mention those individuals and those groups for sure. So tonight, the process will be, and if you didn't have a chance to grab an itinerary, there's a little bit of a plan. There's some copies of it by the doors if you want to grab one, but we want to recognize all of our program players, all of our the levels of our football program, and then as we move through the evening tonight, we obviously have some awards we're going to give out, recognize those kids as well. So I'm going to start off tonight with our freshman football program. And one of the most exciting things for me about our freshman football program this year was the fact that we had 30 freshmen in our freshman football program this year. And that's the most that we've had since I've been coaching, again, over the past 8 seasons. We've had mid-20s, upper 20s a few times, but to have 30 freshman football players was a big deal. And for football, a little different than maybe some of the other sports in high school, it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of kids. It takes a lot of athletes. Not just 11 guys to put on the field, but to have depth and to have scout teams and to have all the things that we need. So really excited about this freshman class this year. Obviously, they had an enormous amount of success. But also excited for them moving forward because, again, they're going to provide a lot of depth for us, and that excites me. So before we recognize the freshman class, let me quickly introduce all the coaches, just so everybody's aware of who we've got. So this year we had Casey McCommons and Aaron Webb. Those two men took on the freshman football program this year. Coach McCommons coached last year. Coach Webb is new to Benton High School this year, a new teacher, new PE teacher, and was willing to take on the responsibility of being the other freshman football coach. And those two guys did a really, really good job. Very, very pleased with them. And then Tim Korn and Landon Stewart, who both coached varsity position groups for us. Tim Korn coached our defensive backs and our wide receivers, and Landon Stewart coached our linebackers. Those two guys also took on the role of coaching our sophomore football program this year. We'll talk more about the sophomores in just a little bit. And then our varsity position coaches, Coach Doherty, Sean Doherty, who coached our defensive line, Josh Kinsman, who coached our offensive line, Derek Stowers, who coached our quarterbacks, and Coach Ron Weinmiller, who was kind of headed up our special teams this year. So again, it took all 9 of us to get everything taken care of, but very blessed with the coaching staff that we have. So I'm going to ask Coach McCommons to go ahead and come on up. He's going to introduce to you the freshman football players.
First, thank everybody for coming. Like Coach said, we had a very successful year as freshmen. So I'm going to start. I'm going to introduce the freshmen, have them come up here, line up. I'm going to read your name here. We'll start with Aiden Newcomb, Jarek Henman, Mason Nicholson, Peyton Switkonski, Dylan Poe. Here, let's just line up along the front. Yeah. Tyler Gallagher, Peyton Bayless, James Tyndall, Jordan Romeo, Wyatt McClintock, Basin Davis, Quentin Barnett, Gage Wysong, Brendan Miner, Judson Palmer, Cannon Cantrell, Logan Williams, Gary Aiken, Caleb Richardson, Kel Pierce, Hunter Roberts, Dakota Roby. I don't think he's here tonight. Gabe Craig, Caleb Prather, Nicholas Land, and Logan Earthall. You know, for the freshmen, a lot of these guys started their freshman football or their freshman season back probably April. We did 8th grade weightlifting and conditioning to introduce them to the weight room. And a lot of these guys started there. And from a get-go, just seeing the effort they put in at the weight room and the way they worked at it, we knew that they had potential to be really good, and they didn't let us down. They continued to work hard all season long. Very little complaining. Put in the work, the weight room, on the field, and it paid off for them. And like Coach said, we went 7-0 as a team, freshman team. We had a MASAC game that got rained out, and then we played a couple fresh soft games where we had all the freshmen with the sophomores. But we had several big wins, a couple close ones. Marion sticks out to me. I think it was about 2 minutes left in the game. Marion took the lead, and we talk to these guys all the time about keeping their head up and fighting hard when it got tough. And they reached down and drove it all the way down the field and scored, and we came back and won that game. But had a lot of good wins, a few close ones, but overall, had an awesome season. I don't really have any stats for the freshmen. If I did, I think we'd have some pretty good numbers. As a freshman team, we threw the ball a lot, and we had some running backs that had some very impressive yards running the ball. So, we have a few awards here for some freshman players. Coach Webb's going to hand them out. We're going to start with Defensive Player of the Year. This player always played hard. He was a kind of defensive player. He could make tackles sideline to sideline. He, played downhill. He was a big hitter. When he hit guys, you knew it, you heard it. He was a key part of our defense. And defensive player goes to Basin Davis. Next award is going to be Offensive Player of the Year. We talk about hitting hard and big hits. You may think it's always a big guy who's going to put some of the biggest hits out there. But this offensive, he's a big defensive player too, but offensive player-wise, he had some of the biggest hits because I think he liked to run at guys instead of running around them. He was that guy that if you needed 2 yards, 1 yard, he would pound it down the middle, or we could send him outside, and he picked up a lot of big runs there too. So, Offensive Player of the Year goes to Peyton Swagonski. The next award, we kind of got to choose some of these. We did a lineman award. I don't know. I was a lineman. Lineman kind of got overlooked a lot of times, so I'm gonna give an award to a lineman. So, anyways, this player, he played offensive line, obviously. We had a big line, we had a good line, and that led to a lot of our success. But this guy, he always got his blocks. You didn't have to tell him multiple times. He doesn't stand out as doing just great things all the time, but he's that guy that you never had to get after. You never had to tell him what to do, or during the game, what's happening, or why is this not? Because he just got it done. And Lyman Award goes to Logan Williams. Next award is Most Improved Player. Most Improved Player for our team. He started defense. He came up to me and he told me towards the end of the year, he said, "Thanks for not giving up on me." Had a lot of coaches give up on me. And, he played his heart out always, and he worked his butt off. We lifted all season long, a couple days a week, and it's tough to want to get in the weight room and bust your butt out there, after you've been practicing all week and games. And this guy, he gave it his all the time, and he always played hard and he practiced hard. And Most Improved Player goes to Judson Palmer. You got, buddy? Got a couple more here. This award here, we're going to give a character award. And character award, we preach character to these guys, and not just being great football players, but be a great example all the time and have good character. And I kind of found a little definition for this award, and this fits it well. It says, displays great character and sportsmanship on and off the field that exemplifies the core values of integrity, respect, responsibility, sportsmanship, and leadership. And this award goes to Wyatt McClintock, which I feel showed all of that. So, well, careful, except for stairs. He's not very good at that. So, next award is Coach's Award. We chose this player because he always did what needed to be done. He was a hard worker. He led our offense, which coming in as a freshman and playing the role of quarterback is a tough job. I mean, you got to learn a lot of stuff, and you got to know the whole offense. And he stepped up and worked his butt off. And also, he corrected me on a lot of formations when I'd call him wrong with the wrong play. So during games even. But so this award goes to Peyton Bayless. And the last one is MVP, Team Most Valuable Player, and kind of self-explanatory. So this award goes to Peyton it's Peyton Swisgonski. Sorry. So, but anyways, that's your 2017 freshman football team.
As I said, really excited to see how this group, this freshman class, develops as they move through our system. It's been a long time since we've had an undefeated freshman football team, and that's a huge accomplishment. So we're extremely proud of them. We're going to introduce our sophomore through seniors all together at one time. But a unique thing about this season compared to the previous probably 4 or 5 years is we actually had enough kids in our football program this year to play 3 levels of football, which is the first time that that's happened, again, like I said, in maybe 5 or 6 years. There's kind of a trend, at least in Southern Illinois football, of fewer and fewer kids wanting to make the commitment to play high school football, not just in Benton, but in a lot of places. All across the state, or at least the southern part of the state. And so for us to have enough freshmen, enough sophomores, and then obviously enough older kids to be able to play freshman games, to be able to play some sophomore games, and then fill a varsity schedule, that's a huge accomplishment. To me, for a head football coach, that's a huge positive for our football program, because that means it's more guys getting more playing time, being able to get into games more, game experiences, and all those types of things. So it only benefits us to be able to do that. So this year we were able to play several sophomore football games, which is, again, is something that we haven't had a chance to do in a while. So as I said, we're gonna introduce our sophomore through seniors all together here in just a second, bring them up. But we had Coach Korn and Coach Stewart who took on the responsibility of coaching the sophomore football team this year. And I'm going to ask Coach Korn to go ahead and come on up. He's going to talk just a little bit about their season. He's going to give out a couple of quick awards, and then we'll move on to our varsity football program.
Good evening. I'd like to take this time to thank Dr. Maddox, Ryan Miller, Wade Thomas, and Coach Pankey for allowing Coach Stewart and myself to coach the sophomore team this year. We finished with a record of 3-4 with a come-from-behind victory against Murphy to end the season on a high note. One thing that I could say about this group of guys is we consistently got better as the season went on. I could go through each and every one of these kids and explain how they got better from last year to this year, but I don't want to be up here that long. So the one thing that I could take away from this season, I thought we did a really good job competing all year long. We were in every game that we played. No one blew us out. These kids really learned within a year how to compete, and I'm really proud of them for that. So we've got a couple awards here. First one's going to be Most Improved Player. This kid came in and he's got a ton of potential. This year he kind of learned to run behind his pads and started lowering his head and starting to take some people down to the ground. Most improved goes to Nevada Schaefer. Good job, Schaefer. Next award we've got is the Coaches Award. This kid, he's going to do anything you ask of him. I don't know that he missed a single day. We kind of spread him out all over the field. He plays every position. The Coaches Award player goes to Jaron Picklesheimer. Next award we've got is our Defensive Player of the Year. Another kid that just really improved and put the work in the offseason in the weight room, committed himself to being a better football player this year. Started coming downhill and really hitting people, made some big plays in big games for us. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Blake Niesel. Offensive Player of the Year. This is the first year kid, didn't play as a freshman, came out as a sophomore, just made a ton of plays for us in crucial games and crucial times. Anytime that we needed a big play, he was our go-to guy. Offensive Player of the Year goes to Blake Stewart. Good job, Stu.
I said it before, I've said it to these guys many times, but far and away the sophomore year is the toughest year in high school football for a number of reasons. A lot of times these guys play a game on a Monday night, a sophomore football game on a Monday night, then they turn around and come to practice on Tuesday and Wednesday, and they're a big part of the scout teams for the varsity guys to slam up against for 2 straight days after they've just played a football game on Monday night. Most of them seeing limited playing time on a Friday night. It's just a tough year. As freshmen, you have your own coaches and your own practice time. As sophomores, you kind of get thrown into the mix with everybody else. And so I'll totally agree with what Coach Korn said. I'm not sure that I've ever seen a group, and I mean this with all honesty, I'm not sure that I've ever seen a group that improved as much as this group did from their freshman year to their sophomore year. They had a rough year as freshmen, struggled in a lot of ways, and Coach Korn's exactly right. They competed in every game they played in this year, and that's a huge step in the right direction. So, again, I'm excited for this group moving forward as well. They've put themselves in a situation to be able to continue to get better, and we're excited about that. I'm going to transition now and talk about our varsity kids and bring them up and begin to talk about them a little bit. And obviously, anybody in Southern Illinois that followed Benton High School football this summer or this fall, every one of us would have liked to have been able to get that 6th win, myself included. But this group of varsity football players this year brought an excitement back to Benton football that hasn't been there for a while. And it was exciting to be a part of it. It was exciting for me to be a part of it. On any given Friday night, just what's going to happen? What's going to happen tonight? Who's going to make a big play? What kind of awesome things are going to take place? And, again, very exciting to be a part of that. A lot to celebrate this year, a lot to celebrate. But most importantly, I want to celebrate them as young men. And one of the things that we try to emphasize in our football program is that it's not just about winning football games. Every one of us want to do that, myself included, and we invest an enormous amount of time to try to win football games. But as I said, for a number of these guys, especially the seniors, I've spent a lot of time with these kids through the years. A lot of them have spent a lot of time at my house, eating my food and swimming in my pool and all those kind of things. And they're special. They're a special group of guys, and I appreciate them. What I'm going to do is read through the sophomores and the juniors, and we're going to save the seniors for the end. So, fellas, when I call you out, when I have you just come up, we're going to line up right down here. I'm going to ask some coaches to come help me out, pass out their varsity letters to them. And then, like I said, we'll save the seniors for the end. So we're going to start with number 2, who's a sophomore quarterback for us, and he actually had an injury on, I believe, about week 5. Wasn't able to finish out the season for us, but he's going to transition next year for us and become a starting quarterback. Number 2, Grant Gordon. We also have sophomore, number 3, Trey Hosick, who's a quarterback and a defensive back for us. We have number 5, who I don't believe is here tonight, but Carter Tyndall, who's a sophomore wide receiver defensive back, a first-year player for us, and excited to watch him develop. We also have number 6, Devin Despotopoulos, who's a sophomore wide receiver defensive back for us. Devin also had an injury this year that kept him from finishing out the year, but I love the commitment level from these guys, Grant and Devin, at practice every single day. Even though they were injured and could not play the rest of the year, they're there, they're soaking it in, they're listening, they're taking it all in, and I appreciate that. Number 8, Chance DeVore, who's a sophomore wide receiver, DB, kicker, punter. Number 9, sophomore wide receiver, defensive back, Jackson Williams. A sophomore wide receiver, and we used him as a linebacker. We used him a little bit all over the place defensively. That's number 11, Jaron Picklesheimer. A junior running back and linebacker for us, was a starter for us on the defensive side of the ball, and then came in and ran the ball some for us as well. Number 15, Andrew Dunn. Have another junior wide receiver linebacker. This young man started on both sides of the ball for us as a wide receiver and a linebacker. Number 18, Joey Craig. A sophomore running back and defensive back, number 21, Nevada Schaefer. Another sophomore running back and linebacker, number 40, Gage Harmon. This next player I don't believe was able to be here tonight. He's at home sick. He was a move-in this summer, new to our football program. He's a junior. He's an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, number 50, Dylan Lampley. And then we also have a sophomore offensive lineman and linebacker, number 52, Garrett Cardwell. Sophomore offensive lineman and linebacker, number 54, Blake Niesel. A junior offensive lineman, defensive lineman, number 55, Hayden Roan. A junior offensive lineman and defensive lineman. He started on both sides of the ball for us as a junior. Number 62, Karsten Sanders. A sophomore offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Number 65, Will Hobbs. Another offensive lineman, defensive lineman. This kid's a junior and had a chance to play some offensive center for us a little bit as well this year. Number 66, Lane Kelly. Offensive lineman, defensive lineman. This kid's a junior. He was a starter on the offensive side of the ball for us. Number 71, Austin Crawford. Another offensive lineman, defensive lineman, junior that started as the other offensive tackle for us this year, number 73, Daniel Richardson. Sophomore offensive lineman, defensive lineman that started on both sides of the ball for us as a sophomore this year, number 76, Tyler Butler. Another offensive lineman, defensive lineman kid, and this young man wasn't able to be here tonight. He had another school function that he had to be at, but he was a starter on the defensive side of the ball for us, number 77, Tristan Bigham. And then we have another sophomore wide receiver, defensive back that played some wide receiver for us, came in and caught a couple of really big balls in the West Frankfort game for us, number 80, Blake Stewart. I'm going to ask these gentlemen to stay up here, and then we're going to transition to our seniors. going to start with number 1, Ian McMahon. Ian is a punter and a kicker for us. He was actually a kicker and a punter for us as a sophomore. And then his junior season, which would have been last year, he took the season off and played a lot of fall baseball. And then came back to our program this year. He hit 15 extra points for us this year, extra point kicks. He hit 12 his sophomore year, so he's had a total of 27 extra point kicks for us. As far as a punter, he averaged 31.6 yards per punt this year. That's the best that anyone has had at Benton High School since 2013. And then he also averaged, as a kickoff guy, averaged 45 yards per kickoff, which is also the best that anyone's had at Benton High School since 2013. Ian will be playing baseball next year at Maryville University near St. Louis. So, Ian McMahon. Our next senior is a senior wide receiver defensive back. He's a 3-year varsity player for us and a 2-year varsity starter. Last year, he was our second leading receiver. And this season, he broke the Benton High School record for a number of receiving yards, which we'll talk more about in just a few minutes. He also recorded 30.5 tackles and 5 tackles for a loss from the corner position this year defensively. And a little bit of trivia about this player. His summer team, we had summer teams this summer. We broke our team up into 6 teams, and they competed all summer long for commitment points, doing various things, and each one of our leadership council members was in charge of a team. And this young man's team lost that competition, and so his team got a chance to tear down the practice field every day after practice and put everything away every day after practice. He's a dynamic, extremely athletic player with lots of speed, lots of quickness, extremely smart. He was a leadership council kid for us and a team captain, number 4, Kate Thomas. The next senior that I want to recognize is also a wide receiver, a defensive back. He was a safety for us on the defensive side of the ball. He's a 3-year varsity player and a 2-year starter for us as well. Last year, he was one of our leading tacklers on the defensive side of the ball, and this year he was our second leading tackler with 56 total tackles. He seems like this kid was in on every tackle when you go back and watch the film. He tied for the team lead this year with 3 fumble recoveries. He also was our third leading receiver this year with 337 yards receiving. He's a tough, physical kid that played more like a linebacker than a safety on the defensive side of the ball. He's also a leadership council kid and one of our team captains, number 7, Neil Carlton. Our next senior is our senior quarterback. He's a 4-year starter at the quarterback position, which is absolutely unheard of in high school football. As a junior, last year he was a 1,000 player, meaning he rushed for 1,000 yards and passed for 1,000 yards in the same season, which is only the second time that a Benton High School player has ever done that I know of. Last year was an all-conference and an all-South player for us as a junior. This year, he broke every possible passing record that you can imagine at Benton High School. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. And I'm sure there'll be more postseason honors to come. He was a leadership council member for us and also a team captain, number 10, Hamilton Page. Our next senior is also was a running back for us on the offensive side of the ball. He was also a wide receiver for us at times on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, he kind of locked in his spot at corner this year. A very versatile player that played a lot of different positions for us. Because of his great speed, his athleticism, he earned a spot, as I said, at the corner, a defensive corner for us with the ability to run with just about anybody. Also a very physical player with the ability to hit and make huge tackles. He developed into a great kick returner also, averaging 25.5 yards per kick return, which is really, really good. He ran one back for a touchdown as well against Harrisburg. He recorded 41 tackles this year with 3.5 tackles for a loss and 1 interception in that West Frankfort game, which is a great game to get an interception in. He had 1 forced fumble, and a lot of the tackles that he had came on special teams. Just became a really, really good special teams player for us as well. This is number 12, Ty Gordon. Our next senior is also a wide receiver and a defensive back. He earned a spot as a starter for us this year on the defensive side of the ball. Played a position that's kind of a hybrid player, linebacker, defensive back type position. Another very physical player that's not afraid to come down and hit somebody. He plays a lot bigger than he is physically. He recorded 29.5 tackles for us this year with 2.5 tackles for a loss. He also had an interception in that West Frankfort game. It became a trend. And then he had 2 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries, which is indicative of the type of scrappy player that he showed that he was all year long. Number 17, Caleb Pemberton. Our next senior is a running back linebacker. This young man was not eligible to play last year, but he stayed with the team for the entire year, his junior year, every single practice, all season long, showing what kind of kid he is and what kind of commitment level that he has, just preparing himself for this year. He recorded 8.5 tackles for us, and he developed into one of our most reliable tacklers on our kickoff coverage team. He made several big play type tackles, saving big plays from happening. Made a tremendous tackle. It was actually on the highlight film a little bit ago. Made a tremendous tackle on defense against West Frankfort that made the highlight reel tonight. He also had 2 kick returns on the kickoff return team. Gave tremendous effort as our primary scout team running back in practice, and that's an extremely tough job. Did a great job there. Great team player, number 44, Dalton Roberts. Our next senior is a running back linebacker. He's a 4-year varsity player and a 3-year varsity starter. As a junior last year, he led the team in tackles and was selected as a unanimous first-team all-conference linebacker as a junior last year. This year, he broke the Benton High School record for total tackles in a season and career tackles. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Extremely strong, tough, physical player that loves to hit, has a high football IQ. Provided an enormous amount of leadership the past 2 years for us. He's a leadership council member and a team captain. He plans to continue his football career next year at the college level. Number 46, Blaine Pankey. His next player is an offensive lineman and a linebacker. He also played D-line for us as well. He's a 3-year varsity player and a 2-year starter for us. He recorded 35 tackles and 4 tackles for a loss as a linebacker and a D lineman this year. He earned the nickname Bam Bam because he had some really big hits. Was also probably our most physical offensive lineman this year, was a guard for us. He's a weight room junkie. He's a strong kid. He's a physical player, another really big hitter, number 68, Warren Smothers. And our last senior, who was a wide receiver defensive back for us. This is his first year starting for us, and he caught my attention this summer as we competed in 7-on-7s, which is something that we do every summer, 4 or 5 or 6 times in the summertime, and just made some great catches in the summertime on those 7-on-7 competitions. Has great hands. He was our second leading receiver this year and the third leading receiver in Southern Illinois. He had 406 receiving yards. Very athletic, great hands, and became a really, really nice player for us this year, number 99, Bailey Hobson. And ladies and gentlemen, this is your 2017 varsity football Benton Rangers. All right, fellas, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and grab a seat, please. I'm going to hand out some awards. Thank you. Appreciate it. In our conference, in the Southern Illinois River to River Conference in the Ohio Division, we kind of have an unwritten rule that we don't announce all conference players until the last team in the conference has finished playing for the season. And as many of you may know, Heron won Saturday, their second-round football game. They're going to play again this coming Saturday. So officially I'm not allowed to announce our all-conference players until after Heron bows out this year, and I'm going to abide by that. But I will tell you this, that we had 10 different players selected as all-conference football players this year, which is, I'm not sure that that's happened since I've been coaching football at Benton High School either. So that deserves a round of applause for these young men. A number of our players were selected as all-conference players on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively, so that's a huge thing. As I mentioned as I was introducing the varsity players, that we had some records that were broken this year. And while the team is always more important than individual statistics, but anytime that we have statistics that are being broken and stats that are being broken, records that are being set, those individual performances all come together to help a team be successful. And I think it needs to be recognized when that happens. And so I'm gonna bring up 3 different players and talk about the records that they've set this year. The first one is linebacker and running back Blaine Pankey. He set a record this year for most total tackles in a season with 96 total tackles. That's 41 solos and 110 assists. He had also set a record this year for the most total tackles in a varsity career with 212 total tackles. That's 95 solos and 236 assists. He also had 14 and a half tackles for a loss this year. Record ball goes to Blaine Pankey. Another player, a senior wide receiver that set a number of records and broke a number of records for us this year from the wide receiver position. He set a record for most yards receiving in a season with 777 yards this year. It's the leading receiver in Southern Illinois by over 250 yards. 777 yards in 1 year is extraordinary for those of you that don't really follow high school football stats. He also set a record for most yards receiving in a single game, 197 yards against Harrisburg this year, week 6. He also set a record for the most receptions in a career. He actually tied this record with Mason Childers from 2011. This young man had 73 career receptions over his football career at Benton High School. He also set a record for most receptions in a season, 49 catches this year, which again is an enormous amount of catches for a high school football player. And he also set a record this year for the most receptions in a single game. He previously stood at 10. He had 11 catches in that game against Harrisburg this year, which broke that record as well. Wide receiver, senior Cade Thomas. When you have a player as dynamic as this one is and has been for the past 4 years, sometimes you don't realize how special it is until he's gone. I hope that that's not the case with those of us that had an opportunity to watch him play football over the last 4 years and what we had an opportunity to witness and be a part of. Very blessed to be a part of that process with him. This young man broke a record this year for the most passing yards in a season, 1,906 passing yards in one season, which again is extraordinary for a high school football player. It was by far the leading receiver in Southern Illinois by like 1,300 yards, okay? He also set a record this year for the most passing yards in a career over his 4 years as a varsity football player at Benton High School. He had 4,302 passing yards, which sets a record. He also had most passing touchdowns record in a season. He passed for 17 touchdowns this year as a senior. He also has the most passing touchdowns in a career. Over the course of his 4 years, he's thrown for 36 touchdowns in his varsity football career. And then he also set a record this year for the most passing yards in a single game against West Frankfort, 319 yards in that game. Our senior quarterback, Hamilton Page. Thanks, guys. You can grab a seat. Also want to give out some awards this evening to some players. I'm going to start with an award that I don't know that we've given out this award before, but I just felt like it was one that we needed to give out this year. I'm just calling it a newcomer award. And what I mean by newcomer is someone who is new to the varsity football team. Now, this young man actually got a few snaps last year as a freshman on the varsity football team, a handful, but this year came in as a sophomore and established himself in the summertime as a two-way starter for us as an offensive lineman and also as a defensive lineman. He led our team in quarterback sacks with 3.5 quarterback sacks this year and had 5 tackles for a loss. Our newcomer award this year goes to Tyler Butler. Next award I want to give out is a coach's award. Coach McCommons gave out a coach's award. He explained it pretty well. To me, a coach's award goes to someone who does a little bit of everything and does the little things. To me, a coach's award, also a component of the coach's award, is commitment. And that commitment goes well beyond the 3 months of a varsity or 9 weeks of a varsity football season. To be a good varsity football player takes a 12-month commitment. It takes a weight room commitment. It takes an off-season training commitment. It takes film commitment. It takes a lot of time and effort outside of practice time to become a good varsity football player. And so, to me, that's the embodiment of a coach's award, is someone that just works their tail off to do those things. And so I'm going to give out 2 coaches awards tonight. The first one goes to a young man who's a junior this year, starter on both sides of the ball for us, one of our leadership guys and a team captain for us, and works his tail off in the weight room. He is a go-to guy for me, and excited to watch him finish out his high school career next year as a senior. That goes to Karsten Sanders. The second coach's award, again, goes to a young man who works his tail off all the time. It doesn't matter what he's doing. I watched him at basketball practice today for a little bit, and he's working his tail off. First day of basketball practice today. This young man was a great example for us, for younger players to watch, to see not just technique, but also to just watch how hard he works all the time. Was also a leadership council guy for us and another team captain for us. Was a starter on both sides of the ball. And if you give me a second, I can tell you some of his statistics. On the wide receiver side, he caught for 200 yards for us. And then defensively, he had 37.5 total tackles for us this year and 6.5 tackles for a loss. Was really, really good out in space. And was a very athletic kid for us. The second coach's award goes to Joey Craig. Next award that I want to give out, and I mentioned a little bit about this a little bit earlier. This is a special teams award, and this award goes to a young man that was a dynamic, athletic, fast player for us. He played on the defensive side of the ball for us, but as a special teams player, he really set himself apart. As I mentioned earlier, his average kick return this year was 25.5 yards. Which is really, really good. He ran a kickoff back for a touchdown at a crucial time in the Harrisburg game this year, and he booked or logged 41 total tackles this year, and 25 of those tackles came on kickoffs. That's a lot of tackles on a kickoff. And so this year's special team award goes to Ty Gordon. Next award is our Lineman of the Year award. this young man also played on both sides of the ball for us, was a starter on the offensive line for us. As Coach McCommons mentioned, offensive linemen just don't get a lot of love, and Coach Kinsman's agreeing with that. But they make everything happen. Everything starts with them, and if they're not right and they're not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, it doesn't really matter what anybody else does. And so we definitely appreciate our linemen. This young man started as an offensive guard for us. He also started on the defensive side of the ball for us as a linebacker and as a defensive lineman. He logged 35 tackles on the defensive side of the ball for us this year. 4 of those tackles were for a loss. This year's Lineman of the Year goes to Warren Smothers. This next award is kind of an extra special award for those of you that maybe haven't been around our football program for a long time. Coach Mark Harbin was a part of our football program as a coach for a number of years. He actually coached softball at the high school as well, was around coaching at Benton High School for a long, long time. And Coach Harbin tragically passed away in 2010. And so every year since then, we have given out a Coach Mark Harbin Commitment Award. And for me, the Coach Harbin Commitment Award needs to go to a player who is committed above and beyond to the program. And that means a lot of things. That involves off-season. That involves weight room. That involves extra things that a lot of players aren't a part of, but this particular individual chooses to be. This young man for us was one of our leadership council guys. He's also one of our team captains. Not a very vocal guy. Not a very vocal guy. Now everybody knows who I'm talking about, right? But he led by example with the way that he played. He was our third leading receiver offensively. Finished the year with 337 yards receiving and four touchdowns. He was our second leading tackler this year on defense with 56 total tackles from the safety spot. And one of those tackles was for a loss. Now, if you know anything about football and you know where the safety plays, how he had a tackle for a loss is interesting. He played downhill. He played more like a linebacker than a safety. This year's Coach Mark Harbin Commitment Award goes to Neil Carlton. Going to give out a Most Improved Award this year. I mentioned this already, but this young man who has been around our football program for previous years, but this year really established himself as a contributor. More so than a contributor, but he locked in a starting position on the offensive side of the ball and ended up being the third leading receiver in Southern Illinois. He caught 406 yards worth of footballs this year for us, 2 of those for touchdowns. The Most Improved Player this year goes to number 99, Bailey Hobson. Going to give out an Offensive Player of the Year award. We've already mentioned this. This year's Offensive Player of the Year goes to a young man who led the entire southern half of the state in receiving with 777 yards. He had 10 touchdowns. He was also a starter on the defensive side of the ball for us as well. We've already talked about the records that he's broken. The Offensive Player of the Year this year goes to Cade Thomas. Defensive Player of the Year for us this year, and again, we've already talked about several of his numbers as well. Senior player for us that led our team in tackles as a junior, led our team in tackles again as a senior, had 96 total tackles this year, 14 and a half tackles for a loss, and was just a smart football player on the defensive side of the ball for us. Our Defensive Player of the Year for the second year in a row is Blaine Pankey. Most valuable player, as Coach McCommon said earlier, kind of speaks for itself. On any team, obviously it takes more than one player to make it happen, especially on a football team. It takes a lot of players to make it happen. And if any one player doesn't do their job, it affects everybody else. But as I mentioned earlier, to have the opportunity to watch a player like this one play over the last 4 years and accomplish the things that he's accomplished is a very special thing that doesn't come along very often for a coach. As I mentioned earlier, he passed for 1,906 yards this year, 17 passing touchdowns. He also rushed for 586 yards this year, had 14 rushing touchdowns. Our 2017 most valuable player is quarterback Hamilton Page. I've invited a guest to be with us tonight to just share a few words with us. Some of you may know Roger Light, many of you may not. Roger lives in Carbondale. Roger is the Southern Illinois Regional Representative for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It's a position that he's held for a number of years, since 1994. He oversees the state's southern 19 counties for FCA. He also serves as a chaplain to several different athletic teams, including SIU football and the Southern Illinois Miners baseball team. Roger has authored several books, a lot of devotional books for athletes and coaches. He's married to Sharon. As I said, he lives in Carbondale. He's a good friend of mine and someone that I've had a chance to work closely with over the last several years, and a kind of a mentor for me, as a huge resource for Southern Illinois. If you would, welcome Roger Light.
Evening, everybody. Guys, the good news is I will be brief. The bad news is I will be direct. All right? I want to have you think about some things. Obviously, you've talked about dominating the day all year. We'll continue in that same theme. I want to say congratulations for a great season. A lot of outstanding individual accomplishments. Your team accomplished a lot. That's good stuff. Especially the freshman team coming up. It looks like you guys have great future ahead of y'all for 3 more years coming along, and that's an outstanding thing. Anyway, just want to say congratulations. Guys, I hope you understand that you're building, seniors, you have built some lifetime memories just with the guys that you're here. I still go to stuff a half an hour early because Vern Pollock said so in 1973. I still do that because that guy told me that's the way you do things. Some of the things you learn through the course of playing football will be important to you when you're an old guy and you don't have hair anymore. It's awesome, some of the stuff that you gather. I want to have you think about some things particular to dominating the day in some particular ways. Dominate the off-season. You guys who are coming back to play some more, dominate the off-season day. There's training to be done, right? Who's going to be in the weight room this winter? Absolutely. Part of dominating in season is what you do off season, how you develop yourself, how you become stronger, work on agility. You do all the stuff that you do to become stronger and faster and bigger. That's part of it. Guys, eat well, sleep well. This is how you grow, right? I'm an old wrestler. I missed stupid cutting weight. I missed, growth spurts. Stupid. Never occurred to me to go up a weight. Not real smart. Train well, eat well, sleep well. That's how you grow and develop over time. Men, go to class. This is pretty simple. Get the academic work done or you cannot play. One of these days, the things you're learning in school will be more valuable to you than they are now. Because I had really good teachers, it enabled me to do a lot of things later in life. Because I just didn't understand it at the time. But good teachers help make us smarter, help us be better equipped to do the things, whatever it is we're going to do. So dominate the off-season day, men, because that's how you get better. Dominate practice day. Don't just eke by, master your techniques. The things that you're learning about the skills that you're developing, master those things. Get them to where they're not even things you have to think about anymore. It's just the way you go about it, right? Your first step, offensive lineman. Guys, the way you hold your hands, the things you do, matters of technique, master those things at practice every day. Master the things of alignment and assignment. If you line up badly, I see this every day with SIU players. If they line up 3 feet outside of where they should be, they're already a yard behind the play, and there's a big play waiting to happen. We haven't even snapped the ball yet. Part of the difference in that play being made or knocked down is, did the guy align himself properly pre-snap? It's that simple. With you master those things, alignment, assignment, knowing exactly what your job is, you get that stuff done at practice, and then it shows up in the results on game day. Master the schemes. If you can, especially if you're a quarterback or you're a safety, you need to be able to understand the whole of the scheme of what the offense or the defense is doing so that you can help align everybody else, so that you can help your teammates be in the right places. If you master the scheme, that's part of dominating the practice day, and that stuff has its results on Friday nights. And then postseason on Saturdays, you get to play bonus football. Dominate the practice day. Everybody wants to dominate game day. Of course you do. But if you don't do this former two, this one won't happen. Because that's the stuff that enables you to execute the game plan. You understand it inside out. You're ready to go. You can make the play because you've done the previous work. You can execute the game plan and make it work. Capitalize on opportunities. This is one of the biggest things that happens when that opposing quarterback makes a bad throw, safety comes up, breaks on the ball, and it hits him in the hands, and it slides through. It's painful. Because I've done that. It's painful, and you've missed the opportunity. To capitalize on opportunities means you make that catch. You're the guy, and you get that block, and suddenly your running back is running free because you capitalized on the opportunity. That's part of dominating on game day, is to see the opportunity and seize it. Grab it with both hands. Fulfill that thing. And then to rebound from setbacks. I watched this happen on Saturday. SIU, we came up, we get a 3-and-out from our defense. We take first possession. Boom, we go right down the field, aided by a penalty by our opponents. We scored in 2 plays. Boom, 7-0. We think it's off and running, baby. Until we kick off, and their kid runs the ball back about 70 yards, and suddenly, we did not rebound from that setback very well and wound up losing the game. Took us all the way to the fourth quarter to gain the lead. Out of gas and lost. We failed to capitalize on some opportunities, and we failed to rebound from setbacks, and it amounted to a loss at the end of the day. Painful thing. We less than dominated the game day. Lastly, I want to have you think about one more thing. Dominate life. There's some things about playing football that are outstanding. It becomes a microcosm of how your whole life works. There's some things here about dominating life that the Apostle Paul wrote to his friends in Corinth, in Greece. He wrote these things at 1 Corinthians 16. He's writing to a group of men, just like we're talking with a group of men here. He's writing to his friends, and he says this: be on the alert, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. This is a great way to dominate life, to be on the alert, not just for yourself, but to be on the alert for the people around you, and to stand firm in the faith, to know what it is you care about, know what's at the core of your values, to know what it is that's worth fighting for. That's the stuff that makes you superior men that dominate life. You're on the alert, and you stand firm in your convictions. That's important. Second part is he said, act like men and be strong. Well, the point is, act like men rather than be passive. Let's be assertive. Let's know what we're about. Let's go directly after our goals. Be assertive. That's what men do. Be strong, obviously, as opposed to being weak. This is where we need young men like you to stand up, act like men, be strong, lead the people around you. It's important. And lastly, he says, what shapes all of that, because you could go out and be on the alert, stand firm, act like men, be strong, and be jerks. Let's not do that. He says, rather, let all that you do be done in love. That is to prefer the best for your friend even above your own self. How do I care about my friend at my own expense? That's what love looks like. That's what defensive tackles do every single play, don't they, Bam Bam? They take on blockers so the linebackers can make tackles. That's just the way it works, right? That's what love looks like on a football field, guys who do the hard work to let the other guy prance into the end zone. Right, lineman? Yeah, he's pretty. No, we did the hard work. That's what love looks like. You sacrifice yourself for your teammates' best. That's what it looks like to be a man who loves. Be on the alert, men. Stand firm. Playing football, you bet. Life. When you're 61, your hair's falling out, all that stuff, it's worth it. This stuff is important at that point, even when I was 17. Act like men and be strong. Be assertive. Don't be passive. Be men. Be strong. Be rather than weak. And lastly, circle everything that you do. Let it all be done in love. Prefer others above yourself. Rather than be selfish, be selfless. Give yourself away. That's what great men do. That's how you dominate the day. Men, we're proud of you. We're thrilled to see what you've achieved. Can't wait to see what's coming for the future. Thanks very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate that. There's so much, guys, and you hear us talk about this all the time, players. There's so much about what you're experiencing right now as a high school football player that will affect you for the rest of your life, and you don't even realize it yet. So I appreciate guys like Roger that can help put things in perspective for us. Want to do two things as we bring things to a close tonight. First thing is to recognize two really special people in our football program that do an enormous amount of work that a lot of times goes unseen by people on Friday nights. The first one is a young man that I asked to come and be a part of our football program this year. We had never utilized this position before, but as football moves into the 21st century and all the things that we do, an enormous amount of film, and we utilize a program online called Huddle to house all of that film, and it takes an enormous amount of technological know-how beyond what I have, obviously, and it takes a designated person to be able to handle all of those things. And so this year I asked a young man to come on to become our technology manager. That entails a whole lot of stuff, and kind of wherever I dumped on his plate, he just did it. But to handle all of the film and putting the film online for us. So let me give you a quick example. A typical Friday night would be that the high school football game gets over at 9:30 p.m. You all go home. Coaches go sit in the office, and we start downloading that. Or actually, we wait for the film to be downloaded. This young man would take the camera home with him, plug it into his computer, download that game film for us, and usually I would have the stats done by about 1 in the morning. Okay, and then on Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays during practice, we ask this young man to come out to practice, video segments of practice, upload it to Huddle so that we could show it to our players so they could watch themselves practice and get better with their technique. It turned out to be a huge thing. I really hope that he'll agree to come back next year and help us out again. So that young man is Carson Hill. I even had him working tonight in the sound booth taking care of stuff, so job's never done. Second young man has established himself over the past, I think this was his third season helping us out. Established himself as a huge part of our football program. Very well respected and loved by our players. He holds them accountable. They let him hold them accountable. He provides a spark and a life to our football program that it just wouldn't be the same without him. He has come on board again. I think this is his third season as our water guy, as our team manager. He takes care of equipment. He basically takes care of anything we ask him to take care of, and he does a great job doing it. And that man is Colin Clark. I stand corrected. 4 years, not 3. 4 years. He established a really great quote that I love. I believe it was 2 years ago. His quote was, "No wind, no water." If you don't win, you don't get water. So that's pretty tough, but I like it. It's all right. Okay, the last part of the evening, as we kind of bring things to a close, is something that we started last year that will become a tradition for us, hopefully, as we move forward. As I mentioned, these seniors, there's 10 seniors this year for us, and as they transition on, obviously a lot of those guys are playing winter sports and spring sports, and there's a lot of school year left and a lot of experiences still left for them. But every hurdle that they cross and every experience that they have as a senior is it's the last one. It's the last football season that they're going to participate in. Today was the first wrestling practice, or the first basketball practice for a lot of these seniors. And while that's bittersweet, it's also exciting in a way to watch them grow and where they're going to go and what they're going to accomplish and what they're going to do. One of the things that we try to hammer on is for them to see beyond themselves, and that's really hard for an 18-year-old kid to do. It's hard for a 43-year-old kid to do, but it's really hard for an 18-year-old kid to do, to see beyond themselves, but to recognize where they're at and what it took to get them there, and the people that it took to get them to where they're at in their life right now. To play high school sports takes an enormous amount of commitment on their part, obviously, but it also takes an enormous amount of commitment on the parts of a lot of other people around them that are there to support them and do all the things that they do. So what we've asked our seniors to do is each one of them has selected someone that they are going to thank. They've written that out on a little form here that I've asked them to fill out. They're going to come up and read this. And if the person that they are thanking is here tonight, then they're going to present that person with the framed copy of what they wrote. Again, it's just a way for them to be able to take an opportunity and recognize some of the people that have been key in their lives, getting them to the point that they are today. Okay? So the first one that I'm going to ask to come up is senior Ian McMahon, and the only reason his is not framed is because he put front and back. So I couldn't frame it because he couldn't read it. So once he gets it done reading it, then I'll frame it for him, okay?
Thank you. I chose to write about my dad, Phil McMahon, so I'll start here. Henry Drummond once said, "The people who influence you are the people who believe in you." From the start of my athletic career, my father has been there every step of the way. At a young age, he instilled in me that anything you want in sports or in life, you must earn it. I've lost count of the times I've heard, just because you're on my team doesn't mean you're going to play. From the first time I heard him say that to the last, I knew I had to put work in to be the best I could possibly be. My dad has put me in the best situation to compete at the next level in baseball and other sports. From the road trips all over the country, literally all over the country, to letting me live in St. Louis the last 4 summers so I could get the absolute best coaching in the country to help me achieve my full potential. He's helped me through every obstacle in my career while teaching me to keep a good work ethic, to not get too high or get too low, because in the game of baseball, it has its way of flattering you. The last 18 years haven't been easy, and we've had our ups and our downs, and everything ends up working out. You're right sometimes in telling me that Ian's way doesn't always work. You've done, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me, from reviewing every college offer to loving me every day. I love you. Thank you, Dad.
I want you to go ahead and go give this to him. Our next senior that's going to come up and read their thankfulness sheet is Dalton Roberts.
I chose to write my thank you letter to my mother. Mom, you are the greatest influence on my life. You have always pushed me to be the best person I can be. You've helped me to become my own person by trusting me and making my own decisions and slightly nudging me if they were wrong. I can always take my problems to you, and you always try and help me figure them out as best you can. when you knew I was unhappy when I moved away from Benton. So you made a deal with me and moved our life back to Benton just so I could play football. But only after you set goals you thought were impossible for me to reach. After doing that, you showed me I could do anything I put my mind to. You have forgiven me when I've messed up and loved me no matter what. Even when life got tough and things got crazy in your world, you were still there to make me smile and happy. Thank you, Mom. I love you.
Next senior to present is Blaine Pankey.
All right. First, I'd like to thank my family. Thank you to my whole family for always supporting me no matter what I decided to do. I know that you guys always will love me and want what's best for me. Next, I'd like to thank my friends, my guys. They're always being there for me through thick and thin. I'm truly blessed to have a group of brothers like you guys, because having so many brothers means you have so many homes away from home. Next, I'd like to thank all the coaches that have helped me along my way. Always believe in me and push me beyond limits I never thought I could get to. All my coaches from when I was little to now have helped install the right mindset in me to be as successful as I am and as successful as I can be. Just thank you to everybody.
Kate Thomas.
I'm writing about, can you hear me? We good? I'm writing about my dad. My greatest influence is my dad. He's taught me the importance of hard work and that in the end it always pays off. I'm so grateful for the example he set me and all I've learned. He's been my biggest influence for as long as I can remember, and I wouldn't be in the places I am without him. We tend to butt heads, but by the end of the day, I'll always thank him for being by my side and wanting the best for me. Thanks, Pops. Love you.
Next senior is Ty Gordon.
First, I'd like to thank the coaches for being the best and supporting me throughout the season. And I'd also like to thank my parents for their support and love. I love you guys so much, and thank you. That's all I have.
Next senior is Bailey Hobson.
I wrote about my mom. She's been my greatest influence on me by far. I didn't really grow up with my dad, so she's took on both roles and helped me get to where I am today. Going back to being in grade school football, she's always been there for me. She's always made things work out, even when I thought I was, not very good. She pushed me to do better every day, and just kept on going. She kept pushing me and kept pushing me, and I'm thankful to have her as my mom. I don't know if my life would be the same way without her. I'd like to thank all the families that have supported me throughout my life. They've been there for me too, when my mom's been away at work or, doing whatever else she does. They've been there for me, and they've helped me they've also been a good influence on me to be where I am today. And but by far, my mom has been the greatest influence on my life. And as Kevin Durant once said, "Mom, you're the real MVP." Love you.
Next senior is Caleb Pemberton.
I would like to start by thanking all the coaches for everything they've done for me and the team. I want to thank Coach Stowers for everything you have done and the huge influence you've been in my life through not just football and basketball, even when I was little, stealing your money. You've always been there for me through thick and thin. Anytime I needed somebody to talk to, you're always there. And I want to say how much I love you and how much I thank you and your family.
Next senior is Warren Smothers.
I'd like to thank my family and the coaches for always being there for me and sticking up for me. I wrote about my brother. My brother played a few years ago, but he was never able to finish his senior season due to injuries. He's always been my biggest influence in life, and I thank him every day for being there for me. And I played this year for my brother and me, so I just want to say thanks, brother.
Next senior is Neil Carlton.
All right. My biggest influence is my parents, Mom and Dad. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. I really appreciate all of the help and support you provided over the years. Thank you for the countless times for taking me to practice when I was younger. Thank you for being at every game to show your support, and thank you for being by my side for everything I do. And also, thank you for being a good role model for me to look up to. I know I rarely express how I feel most of the time, but I really want you to know that I truly appreciate everything that you guys have done for me. Thank you, and I love you both.
The final senior tonight is Hamilton Page.
My greatest influence is my parents. I'm beyond blessed to have such a supportive parents and family as I do. I've started to joke around with my mom a little about what you're going to do with all the free time that you have next year when I'm no longer playing 3 sports. I already know that Dad's just going to hunt and fish a lot more. I'm so thankful that my parents are so supportive and helpful from when I was younger to drive me to games and practices. I know that if I didn't have these people in my life, I would be nowhere I am at today. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for everything that you have done. I love you guys.
Obviously, and these guys did a fantastic job. You would never know it, but it's really intimidating for an 18-year-old guy to get up and talk in front of people, especially saying things like a lot of the things that these guys were saying. But I appreciate them being willing to do it. And, again, I appreciate them in a number of ways. Want to just finish out by saying thank you once again. Thank you for being here. But thank you for being willing to share your kids with us, giving us a chance to spend time with them, develop relationships with them, and invest in their lives. As Roger said, and as many have said, and we all probably know this, that the things that are instilled in our kids when they're in high school are going to carry on with them for the rest of their lives. And so my prayer for them, my hope for them is that their experiences and the things that they encountered and experienced through their time with Benton football are things that are going to help them become better men as they grow older. That's the goal. And so just hoping and praying that's what takes place. As we finish out tonight, sophomores through seniors, I want you to stick around, go right back here to the very back of the room, and there's some items that we need to sign real quick as the 2017 Benton Ranger football team. So don't leave until you do that, please. If you're a senior, obviously be sure and take your sign home with you. Nobody wants to see that face anywhere else besides at your house, okay? Again, parents, thank you very much for your time tonight and being willing to come and spend some time celebrating your kids. Thank you all. Appreciate you all being here this year.